Now, this video is a video I've wanted to make for a very, very long time, guys, okay? And you guys all know me. I have no filter. I will just say whatever I want. And here's the issue that I have today. And look, a lot of you guys will disagree with this. I'm not necessarily saying you are correct to disagree with this, but I'm also saying you're kind of well within your right to disagree with what I'm about to say. Essentially, folks, I've been thinking this a long time, and I think the title of the video is that women's MMA should be abolished, okay? It should be gotten rid of. Hear me out. When I say abolished, I mean the current standard and the current way it works, okay? Now, I think it should be completely redone in terms of how it shouldn't work the same way as the men's MMA. And hear me out. As I said, I want you to listen to this. I want you to watch this video because I'm going to explain it to you. I'm going to sit back and I'm going to say I understand people's livelihoods and their careers would be destroyed by this, but it's in the UFC's best interest that it's the structure of women's MMA is completely changed, and I think this is essentially how I think they should do it. And we're going to use UFC 297 as an example. Pennington versus Bueno was a shite fight. I've sworn in the first minute of the video. That's not good. There goes any ad revenue out the window. It was a terrible fight. It was boring. A lot of women's MMA is. It's sloppy. It's really terribly paced. They've been training 10, 15 years of their life, and they look like they've never thrown a punch in their life. They're not built for it, in my opinion. They're not dense, they're not aggressive, they don't have the same tenacity, they just don't have the same footwork, the same skill level. The feints are shite. It's just terrible. That being said, Gillian Robertson fought on the weekend. She has a terrible record, but I love watching her fight because I'm a fan. And I loved watching Zhang Wei Li fight. However, I loved watching Joanna Jędrzejczyk fight, Ronda Rousey, Holly Holm when she was good. You know, there's people that, I love watching Macy Barber. I love Erin Blanchfield. I love Moran Fiorot. I love these fighters, and here is how we're going to fix women's MMA. Because I love those fighters, and I really enjoy watching them fight because I'm a fan, and it's interesting to see how their careers go. Pennington, she can die. Pennington can for retire, and I wouldn't even notice because she's just killing the bantamweight women's division. This is what we do. We keep the weight classes, okay? But it's now no longer. It's now a season style. It's no longer you work your way up the rankings. Well, it is. However, hear me out. This is how to fix women's MMA. You have a top 20, okay? And you only have a top 20. You have 15 fighters in a division, and that's it. One of them goes on a few fight losing streak, you get rid of them and swap her out for someone else that's on the regional scene. For example, if you have 15 women's fighters per division, there's going to be the top 5 that continuously fight each other until someone from below works their way up, the same way a ranking system would work. However, one of them goes on a 3-fight losing streak, has a record of 15-9. Cut her, don't let her back in. She's not good enough for the UFC. That way, it's more of like a standard football approach or an NBA approach where they constantly fight each other. You can get women's fighters that fight each other 3-4 times, and that's normal for women's MMA, just due to the fact that the skill level is one person's elite and one person's absolutely dog shit, and they're within the top 3. Do you know what I mean? That would be completely removed, and you would literally just have 15 fighters, strawweight, bantamweight, flyweight, whatever. I don't care. 115, 125, 135. That's all. And between that, there's 45 fighters. It's not like men's MMA where like you build your way. It doesn't work like that, because the issue with women's MMA is you'll have someone in the top 5 who's number 1 contender. They are incredible, 12-1, incredible athlete for a women's MMA. Then you have someone who's third, who just looks like they've never thrown a strike in their life. And if you have them fight each other multiple times, it's more like a season rather than how the UFC is typically what's the best way to put it? It's more like a season than how MMA is typically structured. And I think all you have to do to fix women's MMA is say, look, guys, we're going to take 6 months into a serious restructure here, rebuild it from the ground up, and I think you're sorted. And I truly think that would work. I think it should be, this is how to fix it, guys. A seasoned approach. 15 fighters per division. They all fight each other multiple times throughout the next 10 years. You swap in and swap out. And of course, there's still going to be a champion of that division. However, you're going to now get more competitive fights, fun fights as well. People that don't just hold up against the cage. And obviously you get shit fights. Every once in a while you're going to get a shit fight. And women's MMA, you're not going to get many knockouts. Hear me out on this as well. Every single women title fight, if they're not superstars, if we don't think it's going to be a great fight, headline of the prelims. That is a much fucking better idea. I don't know why the UFC hasn't done this already. Yeah, it's a champion. You have to show them the respect. It's also more of an incentive to buy the pay-per-view, because if you have a good women's championship fight headlining the prelims, it's like, oh, the men's main card's now going to start. I really think that is a much better way of structuring it. I really want you guys to listen to this video and actually sit back and think, wow, that is a good way of doing it. How about that? How about that, folks? Women's championship fights, if we know they're most likely going to be holding up against the cage, not that entertaining, headline of the prelims, top 15 structure, it would just massively, I think it would massively impact how fans feel watching cards as well, because if you have a co-main event and it's a terrible women's fight, as we did on the weekend, it makes the cards stink a bit. But if you have someone like Erin Blanchfield and Maron Fiorot, put that on the main card. That's an anticipated, exciting fight for a title shot. Erin Blanchfield's, I think, 22, 23. She's incredible. She's a talent, because she's been doing it since she was a baby. And she has a fun style that's dominant. Do you know what I mean? It's not going to be like this Juliana Pena, who doesn't look like she's thrown a strike in her life, but she's a tough lady. Do you know what I mean? It's not like that big meathead, Amanda Nunes, who's more of a man than a woman, destroying people because she's stronger and bigger. Do you get what I mean? And people need to stop this narrative. Like, look, any man could beat any woman on the roster. And that's not degrading towards women. That's just factual. That's scientific. I love women. I love women. I don't care what you guys say. If this is rude or horrible, I don't give a fuck. Fuck you snowflakes. Get out of here. I think my approach and how I would restructure, I mean, if I was Dana White, or if I was whoever's in charge of the structuring of UFC events and divisions, I would say that's a perfect way of doing it. Also, it makes fight cards more fun. You've got a title fight on the prelims, a women's title fight. Wei Li versus Yan Zhaonan should be headlining the UFC 300 prelims. Separates the good fights on the card. Also, if you haven't paid for the pay-per-view, oh fuck, we've got a title fight on the prelims. That's a fun title fight. Now I'm going to quickly go and buy the main card, because there's going to be good fights on there if they're putting title fights on the prelims. Rebrand and restructure women's MMA. Have 15 fighters in each division. Have them fight each other multiple times a year. Doesn't matter. You'll see a lot of rematches. You'll see a lot of trilogies, but that's good. It's more like a season approach. You constantly will find out who's the best. And also, if you have someone who beats someone else 3 times, not in a row, just like over the course of 5 years, have them fight again. It doesn't matter if it's more of like an NBA approach, I think. You know, you compete against them multiple times a year. Find out who the best is on that given day for women's MMA. You don't need a champion with a really long reign, in my opinion. I think you just need fun, great fights. And also, it means you can pay them a little bit more if it's only 15 fighters in the one division. You can pay them a bit more to maybe give them that incentive of a fun fight. Or you can make their bonuses 75,000 if they have a fun fight, because it's not very likely. Do you understand what I mean here, guys? I think that's a really good approach. Give me your thoughts on that. I think that's perfect. I think that's a great way of looking at it. A perfect way of breaking down the divisions, restructuring the divisions. And I hope you guys appreciate what I'm telling you here, because I think that's perfect. And I want you guys to watch this. And I truly, truly think that is a great way of restructuring the divisions. I'm going to stop talking now. Give me your thoughts down below. I've got a podcast coming out soon with one of my friends. We talk a bit about MMA on there, but it's more of just like a general podcast. It's coming out in the next few days, so if you guys want to subscribe to that, I'll put a link to it in one of the next videos. Subscribe to this channel, obviously. It massively helps me and appreciates me. Yeah, that's what I think. Restructure it, rebrand it. Thank you, folks.